so who are you? Paul said, here, Benjaminite, Pharisee, Jew, all these things. We are all many things. We've assumed many identities. We wear many hats. We have one life, many identities. We are called by all these things. But then there's that other identity. Turn to Acts 11, which is where we left off in the book of Acts. Acts 11 and verse 26. Well, we can start with 25. When he left for Tarsus to look for Saul, when he found him, he brought him to Antioch. And it came about that for an entire year they met with the church and taught considerable numbers. And the disciples were first called Christians in Antioch. Christian. Some people think of Christian being, to some people, they are crusaders with swords. That's how some people in the world view them in the Middle East. Some view them as Sunday school people, little old ladies, people fanning themselves in church, and monks, nuns. Not getting into any of that because that's really not what it's about. It says there are first called Christians in Antioch. Antioch, a Syrian city founded in 300 BC by the successors of Alexander the Great. 300 miles north of Jerusalem, 20 miles east of the Mediterranean Sea. No little town. It's the third largest city in the Roman Empire, Antioch. Over 500,000 people, melting pot of Greek, Roman, Arab, Persian, Semitic. 1 out of every 7 person is Jewish. Called the Rome of the East. Filled with religion and diversity and learning. A real cosmopolitan place. It became the birthplace of the first major Jewish Gentile congregation in the Lord. Birth of foreign missions in that city, Antioch. The base of Paul's ministry in Antioch. So from a faith that began Bethlehem, Nazareth, and Galilee particularly, and then was sealed in Jerusalem, it becomes a cosmopolitan thing. God uses this worldly city to open up to the world, and the name is sealed there. The name Christian. From here, it's an urban thing. A Christian, I was told growing up, is somebody who is not Jewish. A Jew is someone who's not a Christian. That's what I thought, and it's totally the opposite. But that's what I thought it was. The Bible doesn't speak that way at all. Clearly, the people in Antioch, many of them were listed there are Jewish and non-Jewish. In Hebrew, they were not called Christian, they were called Mishachim. It's the same word that Christian comes from, of course, Christ, which comes from Mashiach, Messiah. And Christian means a follower, a person of Messiah, or a person, a little Messiah, a person who follows Messiah, a person, a Christos, a Mishachim. The word is totally Jewish. The world is so upside down. It's so upside down that when you stand right side up, it looks upside down to the world. And so the word Christian, with the word Christ, which seems to be the most un-Jewish word, and Christian, it's a totally Jewish word. You cannot have that word without the Jewish people. Because you wouldn't have it without it's simply the word Messiah. So it's funny, the most un-Jewish word, the world thinks, is actually the most Jewish word. To follow the Messiah. Follow the Messiah. People think most people in America are Christians. No, not so. I was just reading a study they did on young people, and they said, I think they said about, I'm not sure, I don't know if I have it exactly right, but around half say they're born again. That sounds really good. But about only half of them say they're committed to the Christian faith. Makes no sense. They say they're spiritual, but it doesn't really mean that much. People say, I'm a Christian. I was born a Christian. That's false. You can never be born a Christian. You can only be born again a Christian. Christian is the same as Catholic, Protestant, Orthodox? No, it's not. Those are denominations or divisions of it. That does not, only God determines who is a true Christian, not a church, not any organization. A Christian is someone who is accepted into a particular church. No, a Christian is a Christian. A church is what happens when they come together, and then they join together. People who call themselves Christians are Christians. No, majority of the people who say they're Christians are not Christians. So what is a Christian? And by the way, it's also, the semantics are not the issue, because messianic, the word messianic and Christian mean the same exact thing, except one has a Jewish connotation, but they mean the exact same thing. Some people in the Messianic movement say, oh no, I'm not a Christian. And I say, like that in the Bible, that just refers to the non-Jewish. I said, no, it doesn't. That's not the point. On the other hand, if someone says, are you a Christian, by meaning, are you someone who for most of history, it's the organized church who then persecutes other people? No, I'm not that. If that's what you mean by Christian, I'm not that. But what does it mean? Christianoi, Christiani, a person of Messiah, Messiah's person, a Messiah person, Messiah person. The believers of Antioch, many different kinds of people, rich, poor, together, men and women, brothers, sisters, father carpenters, tent makers, rabbis, Jews, Gentiles together, yet they were all called Christian, Messianic, Messiah's people. They were of Messiah. Paul had many identities, but he said, turn back to Ephesians. He had many identities, but what does he say? Did I say Philippians? I'm sorry. Philippians. What does he say about these identities? He doesn't say, some of them were, the persecutor part was wrong. The other things he uses and is part of him. But he says, verse 7, but whatever things were gained to me, those things I have counted as loss for the sake of Messiah. More than that, I count all things to be lost in view of the surpassing value of knowing Messiah, Yeshua, Jesus my Lord, for whom I have suffered the loss of all things and count them all but rubbish, in order that I might gain Messiah, and be found in him, not having a righteousness of my own, derived from the law, but that which is through faith in Messiah, the righteousness which comes from God on the basis of faith, that I might know him, and the power of his resurrection, and the fellowship of his sufferings, being conformed to his death, in order that I might attain to the resurrection from the dead. What he's saying is, I consider more important than all those things that I am, and some are bad, some are good, but I consider more important to know Messiah and be identified with him.
To find out how you can receive more of Jonathan's teachings, to receive special free gifts, or get in touch, go to hopeoftheworld.org or call toll-free 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's hopeoftheworld.org or call 1-800-YESHUA-1. That's 1-800-937-4821. You can also get more at Jonathan Cahn's Facebook page, or write us direct at Hope of the World, Box 1111, Lodi, New Jersey 07644, USA.